reserve huts. And I went with them. I didn't get to go with everybody else because I was preaching, so I didn't leave Grand Rapids until Monday. And once I got down there, I could stay with the rest of them because they all had boats. I forgot. So I wasn't allowed on that land.
Yeah.
And after the second day, Matthew McConaughey, that actor, his farm had called the guy who ran Sean Stan, wanted to know if he had anybody staying with him that would help call his herd. He had some bucks that were just spikes or trees, wanted them out. So I just shoot a little many.
Oh, really?
And the guy that I was with finally said, stop shooting. But I would drop them, and then sometimes he would go get them. I wasn't supposed to leave blind. And the other deer would come up and they could see them here, and they would stand their feet and snort. What is wrong with you? Come on, guys. Yeah. And I shoot. Let's shoot out. There was a whole bunch of them. But they only wanted the trophy.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So they didn't want those misfits breeding with the does.
Yeah. That's what why they always want to shoot the little,
Yeah.
or the one horn, one.
Yeah.
So,
Cool.
yeah.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, I'd have fun doing that too.
Oh, it was just a blast.
Yeah.
Chuck's in the hospital.
I was so
having
sad when
stitch
he
wounds.
said, I don't want to shoot you anymore.
Or there's a new procedure. The
Look at
doctor
all of
said,
them.
Yeah.
yeah, we can't say the
And
last
they just keep coming.
Yeah.
Because they were
Basically the
they
same.
would time, I mean, they had this clock in her crotch. And when the corn feeder would go off, they would arrive about 10 minutes before the feeders went off.
It's hard.
And those feeders went off about every 3 hours.
This is it.
And so, no matter how many you shot,
Twice in the last
10 minutes to three, they were right back. Dinner time.
Oh, yeah.
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 Monday morning, about 2 o'clock in the morning.
I came home and I bought one of those feeders. And I said,
Yeah, you can't use them anymore.
The doctor's office.
I know, we have all over our property, they sit there, yeah? Like,
yeah. I was so
Well,
disappointed.
then they told me to call 911. I can take you to the hospital.
At 3
Well,
minutes.
they told me that, I said, if it's a medical emergency, well, I already called. Once you call an ambulance, you pay for it. That's what they told us. You're here, you're paying for it.
When I called her, they told me that it's always free.
What?
I don't know how the ambulance was.
Depends on who you are,
Yeah,
Marilyn.
yeah.
You would be free.
Yeah. Well, it depends on your Medicare program, I guess. And I don't know, maybe it is free for us. I didn't ask her.
I asked them. And we never did it.
So this week, I'm sure.
So he's in the hospital right now.
Yeah.
You hear that, Bruce? Chuck's in the hospital with a stent in his heart.
Are you a doctor?
I just told them that.
Oh, okay.
He's giving you a hard time, he knows.
Oh.
I could just perceive that.
Yeah, you're a perceiver, all right.
Not a deceiver, a perceiver.
I should go to the youth group room and have somebody show me how to work that stupid kiosk.
Did we have problems?
I walked out because I couldn't order the food, got back in the car and got back in the drive-thru.
Well, the first thing you do when you pull up to the drive-in is say no. They're asking you, would you like to use the mobile one app or whatever? No.
Father God, we're grateful tonight to be here and to be in your presence. We're especially thankful to have your word. And I pray tonight that as we go through this, that we could look past the outstanding, the troublesome, what is this guy talking about sections, and just focus on how much power that you possess and what you do in our life. In Jesus' name, amen. Now, I promised you last week that you're going to hear some things. Some of you that have heard this before won't be a surprise, but well, let's go back to chapter 27, 1 Samuel chapter 27. Man, Drew, I hope you got good eyes because this is really small print, but so you're going to look at page 224. You got it? Okay. David had some victories. The biggest one was the fact that he was so upset with Saul and so frustrated with Saul, and yet he had a chance to kill him and didn't do it. And right on the heels of that, when we have a certain victories in our life, that's when Satan loves to come and call on us. Because we get this false sense of security. And we have this victory and we think, oh, yeah, all right. And then Satan says, oh, no, listen to this. And so Satan says, you know, you haven't done away with the problem. What you need to do is stop counting on your own wiles or putting your faith in God, for crying out loud, and get away from Saul. So David does, and he goes to the land of the Philistines. That's not where God wanted him. He goes down to the Philistines. And then one of the things, he was poor growing up. He never got paid like he was supposed to from being a soldier in Saul's army. And so when he gets a chance to have his own village, Ziklag, not only is he relieved of the pressure of Saul hunting him, but Achish just gives him full reign, and he is now attacking Bedouins that are along the border. The Philistines have nothing to do with them, but they don't necessarily want them killed. And David lies to Achish over and over again by telling him that he's killing Israelites. And Achish says, that's good. They're my enemy. And David's not killing Israelites. But just so Achish won't find out who David is killing, David slaughters everything. Animals, men, women, children. So, verse 12 of 27, Achish believed what David said, and he's thinking to himself, boy, this guy, if Saul hated him before, he really hates him now because he's killing all of his people. David's not, but Achish thinks, this is exactly the guy I want. And God begins to put the squeeze on Dave. Because God loves him. God's not interested in seeing him continue this anti-godly behavior. So he brings something in his life that's going to cause him to think. So let's go to chapter 28. And Tim, would you read the first 7 verses?
Now it came about in those days that the Philistines gathered their armed camp for war to fight against Israel. And Achish said to David, "Know for certain that you will go out with me in the camp, you and your men." David said to Achish, "Very well, you will learn that your servant can do." So Achish said to David, "Then I will assuredly make you my bodyguard for life." Now Samuel was dead, and all Israel had mourned him and buried him in Ramah, his own city. And Saul had removed the mediums and spiritists from the land. So the Philistines assembled and came and camped in Shunem. And Saul gathered all Israel together, and they camped in Gilboa. When Saul saw the camp of the Philistines, he was afraid, and his heart trembled greatly. So Saul inquired of the Lord, but the Lord did not answer him, either in dreams or by the Urim or by the prophets. Then Saul said to his servants, "Find for me a woman who is a medium, so that I may go to her and inquire of her." And his servant said to him, "Behold, there is a woman who is a medium at Endor."
Okay. David has just been living the dream. He's got his own town. Achish doesn't bother him. He's got his own people. And interestingly, we'll come across that when I find it here, 2 Chronicles. In this time that he's living with the Philistines, he had 600 men that were discontented, distressed, debted, and he's picked up more. Some of them traitors who were serving Saul and have come over, but he's also picked up a number of Philistines. He had that personality, charismatic. So he's in big trouble for 2 reasons. Number one, he has a number of soldiers, and they're not your ordinary soldiers. They're going to become some of David's mighty men. And they're with him. And Achish says, "I'm going to fight the Israelites, and I want you to come with me. And if you do what I think you can do and what you say you can do, you're going to be my bodyguard for life." Well, if David is Achish's bodyguard, guess what? No more raiding villages. No more getting these Bedouins and taking all of their goods and livestock and killing them all. But not only that, the Philistines that are with him are going to be confused when they go up to fight Israel, because who's David going to fight? He can't fight the Israelites. Because, not just because they're his people, but he made a covenant with who? And Jonathan. And he said he wouldn't kill them. He said to Jonathan, I won't kill you or your family after I become king. So he can't kill those two now. And that's who Achish is going to want him to fight, because he's a warrior like no other. What are you going to do? Can you keep her under control? What are you going to do? This is one of those soap operas where you're watching a character and what's going on in their life, and then all of a sudden the camera switches over, and this is a completely different family. And now you're watching what's going on in their life. You know what I'm talking about, Brian? Because you stay home and watch a lot of those soap operas. Yeah. So the writer of Hebrews, of Samuel, stops after verse 2 and picks up something else. Because David and Achish and his men and the Philistines are all marching. Saul has done such a horrible job of running the country that the borders have just fallen. Weak borders make a weak nation. And the Philistines, they just marched right up the side of the nation of Israel, right along the shore, Mediterranean Sea. They just march right up there unstopped, and then they're going to cut across, and they're going to divide the nation of Israel in half. They already own the bottom half, the land of Judah, because every time Saul takes his men to go after David, they're not paying attention to the Philistines, and they just keep gaining ground. So, verse 3 starts a new section. I mean, it's going on while the Philistines and David are marching north. Samuel is dead, and in the throes of that, Saul has to speak to him. Why is Saul so intent on speaking to a dead man? Who won't speak to him? God won't. He's tried everything. Prayer, sacrifice. He doesn't have any priests because he killed them all. God will not speak to him. There are a whole bunch of takes on this. One of them, of course, commentaries say that this is all fake. They don't even know why they wrote it in there. There's no such thing as what Saul did, because that doesn't exist in real life. There's others that say, well, Saul isn't really going to see Samuel because Samuel doesn't exist. And there's others that say, yeah, God made this appear. And we're going to cover all of these. But I want to tell you before we begin that I had an opportunity in my ministry years ago when I was in Ohio. I first met this man when I was in Michigan. I was going to school in Owasso. And it was a small college. It's Baker College now in Owasso, but then it was called John Wesley. And on the walls, they had these little papers. They were this size. just posted to the wall at the church that I was going to at the time, Christian church in Owasso. A man by the name of Ben Alexander was coming in. He was from England. He was a spirit medium before he became a Christian. When he was in London as a teenager, he was sought out by Satan through a woman that was rich and powerful, and she recruited Ben to come and join her group. It was interesting how she caught him. He was a taxi driver. If any of you have ever seen the Raiders of the Lost Ark, what was that guy's name? Raiders of the Lost Ark? Harrison Ford. In the Temple of Doom. You remember there was that little teeny kid that drives a buggy by putting blocks on his feet so he can reach the pedals? Well, that's what Ben Alexander did in London in the 40s. He was driving a taxi in London, and he was only 14 years old. He didn't have any parents. They both had been out of his life, and he raised himself, never went to school, taught himself how to read and write. And he would always take this lady, pick her up from the airport, and drop her off. And she lived in a mansion. And one day when she would tell these stories about where she'd been and what she'd done, and it just sounded like a fantasy world. And they stopped at her house, and she said to Ben, would you like to come in? And Ben knew he should not do that. But, I mean, the place was just, never seen anything like it. Raised without parents. Never had a real home. Lived on the streets. So he went in. She said, just go on in there to the den, and I'm going into the kitchen. I'll get us some cold drinks and join you. Ben went into this room. They called it the den, and there was a fireplace there. And on the mantle was a picture of a little girl. And Ben walked up to that picture, and as he's looking at it, the picture came to life and said, hi, my name is Bonnie of Sunnybrook Farms. And Ben thought, oh man, I am sick. Something's happened. And he fell back on the couch just as this lady come in, and she said, what happened? And Ben said, nothing. She says, yeah, something happened. I could feel it, the presence in the room. He was just sweating bullets, dizzy, not knowing what to say or do, and he just kept sitting there and drinking his cold drink, and she wasn't going to let him leave. He didn't know what else to do, how to get out of there, so he just said, that picture came to life and talked to me. She wasn't even surprised. She said, what did it say? That picture said, I'm Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farm. She says, was my daughter. She died 7 years ago in a car accident. That was a nickname. The only person that knew what that nickname was me, because I gave it to her. She said, Ben, I knew that you were the one. I was told that, and that's why I've been recruiting you. Would you like to learn how to have that kind of power where you could do things like that and more? 15 years old. What are you going to say? Yeah. So she took him to a farm. He met a young man about the same age. His name was Jeff, and together they became the most well-known, respected, powerful mediums in all of England. They were set up doing seances over and over and over again. And the amount of money that was paid to have these boys do seances was just astronomical. And they never saw a cent. she took all the money. They were trained, and it took months and months of training to, and this is how it happens with demon possession. You are trained to release your self-control, to give up who you are and allow a possession of another being to come into you. Him and Jeff, they would get into these seances, and one of the things that's so amazing, and I've got it here, is the word for this witch or sorcerer or whoever is a Hebrew word that means from the stomach. And I've always thought that was interesting. After I met Ben and I come across these notes, when you give yourself up to being a medium, and it'd only be one person each night at the table, in our bodies we have something that we call ectoplasm. And by releasing control of yourself, this demon would pull the ectoplasm right out of your stomach, chest area, and it would hover above the table. It was white, wispy, like a cloud. That's why even today in television, when they have these horror shows and they depict ghosts or spirits, that's how Hollywood shows them on the screen. Wispy, white, like clouds that go. What Hollywood doesn't do right, and what maybe they don't even know, is that ectoplasm that appears over the table can never leave the host. That's why they're the medium. They provide that. It can't leave them. So it can't go down the hallway, it can't go into another room, it can't go into somebody else. It is in them. They're the host. They have no idea what's happening because they've gone into a trance. Ben said that these things would take the form of the deceased. People would come in and they'd say, I want to talk to Aunt Gladys. And they'd say, do you have a picture or piece of clothing, whatever? And sometimes they'd say yes. Sometimes they would say no. It didn't really matter because that ectoplasm would shape itself into the image of Aunt Gladys. But not only would it look like Aunt Gladys, it used Aunt Gladys's voice. And so people would think it's real. The Bible tells us that we cannot speak to the dead. Can't be done. Abraham, Jesus tells the story about the rich man and Lazarus. Rich man who had everything dies, he goes to Hades. Lazarus, who had nothing, the dogs would come and lick his sores. He died and he went to paradise. Remember that story? And the rich man looks up and he sees Lazarus and he says, Abraham, would you send Lazarus down here with just a drop of water to put on my tongue because I am in torment? Now this is Jesus telling the story and he says, no, can't be done. There's a gap that exists. And you can't go to their world and they can't go to your world. You did what you did and now you're paying for it. He lived how he lived, and now he's rewarded for it. And the two can't come together. Well, send somebody back. I've got 7 brothers. I don't want them to come here. Jesus says through Abraham, can't be done. They wouldn't listen to someone even if they came back from the dead. So my take on this, in some commentaries say yes and some say no. Some have never heard of Ben and some wouldn't care to know Ben. But I'm telling you that when we get to this part, if she's a medium, she has the ability, if Satan is a part of her, and I believe that he was, that she could conjure up an image that looked like Samuel, that even sounded like Samuel, but it wasn't Samuel. We cannot contact the dead. Why do people want to contact the dead? Brian? Well, why would you want to talk to Aunt Gladys?
Hope that he could give you some information.
Yeah. Got questions. Aunt Gladys, you were my go-to when I was growing up. And now I've got some decisions to make. I just don't know what to do. And I'll tell you, you go to a real seance, and Aunt Gladys will tell you what to do. No, it won't be Aunt Gladys. But that demon will say things like, well, first of all, you need to give these wonderful boys here all your money because they're doing a wonderful work and helping so many people. Man, the old pocketbooks open up and they throwing money on the table. Those boys never see it. There are quacks on television all the time. But I'm telling you that there is such a thing as a spirit medium that can deceive you into talking to the dead. And my first question always is to people who say, oh, if it's not true, if it's not possible, why would God speak against it? Why would he have a law that said, do not consult a medium? Because, yeah, it's idolatry. Okay, so Saul, he can't get any answers from God. And they find a woman, a medium, in Endor. Endor is on the other side of the Philistine camp. Now that's a problem. I'm here. I want to go back to where Brian and not you, Brian, the other Brian. But in between here, there's a Philistine there. There's a Philistine there. You got all these Philistines in between. So I got to somehow get from here to there. Got it. I'm going to go as a disguise. Now, use your imagination. You're King Saul. You have to get past the Philistines. What do you think a good disguise would be? Yeah, dress like a Philistine. The drawback would be if you look like a Philistine soldier, they might, put you on guard duty. How about a clown? Yes. Very good. See, I like where you come from. Yeah, you got this. Yeah. A beggar. Poor. Hood over their head. Clothes that are all tattered. Nobody's going to pay attention to them. So he gets there. And we pick it up. in verse 8. Renee, would you read 8 through 14?
So Saul disguised himself, putting on other clothes, and at night he and 2 men went to the woman. "Consult a spirit for me," he said, "and bring up for me one I name." But the woman said to him, "Surely you know what Saul has done. He has cut off the mediums and spiritualists from the land. Why have you set a trap for my life to bring about my death?" Saul swore to her by the Lord, "As surely as the Lord lives, you will not be punished for this." Then the woman asked, "Whom shall I bring up for you?" "Bring up Samuel," he said. When the woman saw Samuel, she cried out at the top of her voice and said to Saul, "Why have you deceived me? You are Saul." The king said to her, "Don't be afraid. What do you see?" The woman said, "I see a spirit coming up out of the ground." "What does he look like?" he asked. "An old man wearing a robe is coming up," she said. Then Saul knew it was Samuel, and he bowed down and prostrated himself with his face to the ground.
All right. Saul would not be what you would call a very good Jew or very good Israelite or even a follower of God. I mean, every time God asked him to do something, he didn't do it. That was Samuel's frustration with him. "Man, Saul, how many times I got to tell you?" Well, so Saul wasn't really a good follower of God, and he's doing something he's not supposed to do. He's doing something that God, in fact, said don't do. So don't you think it's ironic in verse 10 that Saul vows using God's name? That's like blasphemy, isn't it? And that's not the first time he's done it. Yeah, he's using God's name to as God lives. Well, if you think he lives, Saul, what are you doing? Now notice that no place in this text does it ever say Saul saw this spirit. The medium did. Doesn't say he did. When she describes what he looks like, he falls on his knees to worship. He didn't fall on his knees to worship God, but he's falling on his knees to worship somebody that's dead? Wow, Saul, you're losing it, buddy. I mean, wow. Saul knew it was Samuel. Well, we'll take that for what the writer said. Okay. Then, Jim, you're up. Verses 15 through 19.
Then Samuel said to Saul, "Why have you disturbed me by bringing me up?" And Saul answered, "I am greatly distressed, for the Philistines are waging war against me, and God has departed from me and no longer answers me, either through prophets or by dreams, therefore I have called you, that you may make known to me what I should do." Samuel said, "Why then do you ask me, since the Lord has departed from you and has become your adversary? The Lord has done according as he has spoke through me. For the Lord has torn the kingdom out of your hand and given it to your neighbor, to David. As you did not obey the Lord and did not execute his fierce wrath on Amalek, so the Lord has done this thing to you this day. Moreover, the Lord will also give over Israel along with you into the hands of the Philistines. Therefore, tomorrow you and your sons will be with me. Indeed, the Lord will give over the army of Israel into the hands of the Philistines."
Mm-hmm.
Then Saul
Whoop,
moved
stop.
and fell.
Stop right there. 15 through 19. That's all you're allowed to read. Verse 15 presents a serious interesting question. Because if in fact this woman who represents Satan and his minions wouldn't you be afraid if the devil or his demons has the power to bring back from the grave believers in Christ? Wow. I mean, I thought once we died and went to heaven, we would be untouchable. I didn't think Satan could reach up there and say, you know, I don't think I want you here. Come back to earth. That just, no. I don't think that. And if God doesn't want Satan to do that to Christians, why would God do it? Well, God, Samuel, I know, you're in paradise and you're getting your reward, but I'm going to have you come back to earth for just a little while. Why would God do that? That's why I am a firm believer in this one Samuel. Because I don't think God would allow it. I don't think God would do it. And I don't think Satan has the power to do it. I think this is all demons. And then people say, yeah, but Bruce, what Samuel said. Do you remember in Acts? I think Paul is in Ephesus. And he's been building that church, and he's been bringing people to Christ. And there's a gal who kept walking behind him saying, listen to this man. He's telling you about the Son of God. He's a holy man. See, Satan can lie. Satan can tell the truth. And sometimes Satan tells the truth to get people confused. But Paul, he didn't want her being his mouthpiece. He didn't want her being his PR person. Stop saying that. Why? All I'm saying is the truth, Paul. You are a holy man of God teaching these people how to receive salvation. That's the last thing I want you to do. Because these people know that she was a fortune teller. So there's some truth to what this demon is saying, but Satan can speak the truth. In verse 19, I don't know. Now, I have no doubts about Jonathan. I mean, he was such a good person. I think that when Jonathan dies at this battle, I think that he went to paradise. I'm not sure about Saul. But the demon said, you're going to die, and then you're going to join me. And when he says that, that could be true. It may not just be where Saul thinks it's going to be. Oh, wow. Okay, now, he's worshiping this thing. He won't worship God, but he's worshiping this thing. And verse 20 through 25.
And Saul immediately fell full length upon the ground and was very afraid because of the words of Samuel. Also, there was no strength in him, for he had eaten no food all day and all night. The woman came to Saul and saw that he was terrified and said to him, behold, your maidservant has obeyed you, and I have taken my life in my hands and listened to your words which you have spoken to me. So now also please listen to the voice of your maidservant, and let me set a piece of bread before you, that you may eat and have he refused and said, I will not. However, his servants together with the woman urged him, and he listened to them. So he arose from the ground and sat on the bed. The woman had a fattened calf in the house, and she quickly slaughtered it, and he took flour, kneaded it, and baked unleavened bread from it. He brought it before Saul and his servants, and they ate. Then they arose and went away that night.
It just cracks me up. Here you've got a servant of Satan. And God's not speaking to Saul. He just doesn't talk to him. And Saul is just so distraught. And he finds in this woman, this worshiper of Satan, somebody that cares about him. Boy, do you see how devious Satan is? We got so many people in our world who think nobody cares. And Satan is ready and willing to say, I care. I care about you. That is exactly how they work. Look at this. I mean, this is just step by step on how to have your own cult. Because look at verse 24. Now, we've had this phrase, Jesus told a parable. We call it the prodigal son. And when that boy came home, what did the dad do? Kill the fatted calf. I mean, that was big time. They don't just, going to kill the fatted calf for the older son. He said, you haven't even left home. I'm not killing that thing for you. The fatted calf was a reward, was something stupendous, over the top. And this woman kills that for Saul. He's here the night before the battle. What's going to happen to him? He's going to die. So we're going to give him a good meal. He can't get up off the floor. If they would have cared about him, they could have left him right there. He'd have been one of the few survivors because the Philistines wouldn't have come to the house. But no, she gets him to set up. She gets him collected. She feeds him a great meal, gets him all ready to go. Hey, man, he's feeling so much better about himself. Yeah, somebody's finally treating me like a king. When I watch people, I talk to people. Well, Bruce, I can't really come to church because I put so many hours in at work, and really, that's my day to exercise. I'm out on my bike, or I'm mountain biking, or I'm walking, or I'm, working with iron. And I see them in my neighborhood, and I think to myself, they are going to have one of the best looking corpses in hell. That are so fit. Now, there's going to be a lot of Christians up there flabby. I don't think they're going to be that, why would you exercise? Why would you want to get all of this just to, didn't he listen to what this demon said? Tomorrow you're going to die. Okay, so anyways, get that out of the way. Now, time to go to the next scene. We're leaving this part of the television show. We're going to the next part. Chapter 29. Marilee, would you read verses 1 through 6? 1 through 5, I mean.
And Israel camped by the spring in Jezreel. As the Philistine rulers marched with their units of hundreds of thousands, David and his men were marching at the rear with Achish. The commanders of the Philistines asked, "What about these Hebrews?" Achish replied, "Is this not David, who was an officer of Saul, king of Israel? He has already been with me for over a year, and from the day he left Saul until now, I have found no fault in him." But the Philistine commanders were angry with Achish and said, "Send the man back, that he may return to the palace you assigned him. He must not go with us into battle, or he will turn against us during the fighting. How better could we regain his master's favor than by taking the heads of our own men? Isn't this the David they sang about in the dances? Saul has slain his thousands, but David his 10,000?
Go back to David now, remember? 1 John is telling us about the temptations that come to us when we're Christians. Lust of the flesh, pride of life. And David is just enjoying so much down in Ziklag. He had pressures off, no hunting by the Israelites. He's making money like he's never made before. And he's got this reputation, not only the 600 discontented people from Saul's kingdom that have followed him, but now he's got Philistines. And those Philistines, we're not going to hear about them during this battle thing, but they're going to come back, and we're going to find out that they stood by him through thick and thin. And I'm guessing that when David gets thrown away, that they went with him, because that's the kind of loyalty that he commanded. So, Achish has got him. They're in camp. They're headed up to face Saul and Jonathan and his family. And he doesn't know what to do. God does. This is interesting. I mean, we think, wow, what a predicament. I mean, David's goose is cooked. If he says to Achish, you know, I've been lying. I'm really not killing Israelites. I'm killing other people. He's dead. And if he goes up, he cannot kill Saul, God's anointed. I'm sorry, Achish, I can't kill Saul. I can kill that guy over there, but I can't kill Saul. Achish says, I don't want you to kill that guy. That's the one I want you to kill. Can't do it. God's anointed. He's in a predicament. Have you ever been in one of those spots that you just don't know what to do? I mean, it doesn't seem like there is a logical answer. In verse lest in battle he become an adversary. Right there in verse 4. You see in verse 4 it says, for we don't want him in battle, he may become an adversary to us. Isn't it wild that the writer of 1 Samuel would use that word? Because in Hebrew, you know what that word means? Satan. Isn't the Bible awesome? The Philistines, they don't trust David any farther than they can throw him. Achish, what's wrong with you? You get this man romance going here, man. Just Stop looking at him with those cow eyes and get your head on. He is the adversary. He's Satan. And that's, no, Achish, you're Satan, but you just don't know it. Satan appears to be one of us until the crucial time when he turns. But in the beginning, man, he never looks bad. He always looks good. He offers something that you need and want, and he knows it. He did with Adam and Eve. David needed security, tired of being poor, needed some self-worth, and Satan said, you stick with me. I'm going to send you down here to Achish, and he's going to take care of you because he's one of my boys. But the Philistines, they can smell a rat. And they even quote the famous song. Sure. They said, what's the matter with you, Achish? Didn't you ever hear that song? It was all over the radio. Everybody could sing it. David, he wants to play both sides, and he can't, so he doesn't know what to do. Brian, you're up 6 through 11.
All right. Then Achish called David and said to him, as the Lord lives, you have been honest to me. It seems right that you should march out and in with me in the campaign. For I have found nothing wrong in you from the day of your coming to me to this day. Nevertheless, the Lords do not approve of you. So go back now and go peacefully, that you may not displease the Lords and the Philistines.
Through 11.
Oh, through them. And David said to Achish, Lord, what have I done? What have you found in your servant from the day I entered your service until now, that I may not go and fight against the enemies of my lord the king? And Achish answered David and said, I know that you are as blameless in my sight as an angel of God. Nevertheless, the commanders of the Philistines have said, he shall not go up with us into the battle. Now then rise early in the morning with the servants of your Lord who came with you, and start early in the morning and depart as soon as you have light. So David set out with his men early in the morning to return to the land of the Philistines. But the Philistines went to judgment.
One of the problems when you're deceitful is the guilt. And the guilt doesn't go away because one of the problems with being deceitful, liars need to be brilliant. And most liars aren't. If you're going to lie, you have to remember everything that you said. Now, when you're a truth teller, you don't have to remember anything. I don't. I can't remember. Jeannie says, didn't you say you're going to buy that for me? I said, I did. She says, yes. So I buy it. She's got a lot of stuff. She takes advantage of her husband. That's okay. I love her. Liars need to be brilliant. And David's caught because he's been lying.
It seems like he should win an Academy Award.
Oh, yeah. But you're reading this, Brian, and when you get to verse 8, you're thinking to yourself, hold on there, Dave. Don't be too convincing. What have I done? Give me a chance. Okay. Because he doesn't want to fight. God's given him an out, and he is so wrapped up in this whole deceit thing. Shut up, Dave. Just shut up. They're going to send you home. You're going to be fine. Stop talking. Man, I mean, to tell you, talk about guilt, look in verse 6. Achish is talking to David. He is a Philistine who does not believe in God. And yet, when he talks to David as a pledge, he says, as Jehovah lives. He uses Israelites' word for God to talk to David. Achish does, the Philistine. Man, David's got to be thinking, oh, please don't say that name. Don't bring God into this. I've not been very loyal to God. Well, God's not done with you yet, Dave. Look at verse 9. You're like an angel of Jehovah. Stop it. I can't take it. Just stop it. Achish is going on and on. I mean, you are the greatest. You're like a servant of the Most High God. No, I'm not. But God just keeps pushing and pushing. And boy, I tell you, it's a good thing God's in control. Because God provided a way out, and David, he couldn't take it. So, the Philistines said, listen, if he goes, we don't. Now, what do you want to do? You want to take him and his 1,000 or so guys, or do you want to take your whole Philistine army? It's up to you. You're the boss. And Achish says, man, I know he's a fighter, but wow, there's so many of them. So he says to Dave, I hate to do this to you because I know what a great guy you are. He's saying right to David's face, I know what a great guy you are. And David's been ripping him off for months, 16 months. Stealing right out from under him. Man, Dave, you are such a great guy. But I got to let you go. Because these guys, they don't know you like I know you. They think you're an Israelite yet. They think that you would turn on us. They think that you would, cheat us. I can't believe they'd say that about me. So David got up, crack of dawn, took his guys, and home they go. And oh man, what they're going to find when they get there, we'll find out next week.
Stay tuned for story time.
Don't you just love those cliffhangers, Esther?